Good morning, everybody, and good evening for those who are joining us from Europe or Israel. Welcome to today's webinar, where we are going to talk about the six secrets to driving high adoption. My name is Agur Tzur. I'm a senior customer success manager here at Tatango. And with me, please,
Hi,
Evyatar, you want?
my name is Evyatar Orevi from Radware. Good evening, good morning, everyone.
Perfect. So really, just before we get to know Evyatar a little bit better, just wanted to go through what we're about to review today and see today and talk about today. So first of all, adoption. What is adoption? Why is adoption and value-based conversations are so important to have with our customers? We'll talk about automated processes and why is it important to build them, these processes and workflows to help us with, achieving the adoption rates that we want. How to do it right, and how we are ensuring that we are building the right processes. How do we implement these processes into Tango for those of you who are using us? We'll talk about the hurdles and how you can overcome them when you are dealing with these kind of situations. And we'll obviously talk a little bit about the practice, what you should do after this webinar. And after all of this, we'll have a short time for a little bit of a Q&A. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please remember them. So at the end, you'll be able to ask either me or Evyatar. Evyatar, to you.
Okay, so just a little bit about Radware, a well-known company over 22 years, traded in NASDAQ, dealing with two major lines of business. One is cybersecurity, protection against DDoS attack and WAF, and the other one, application delivery, load balances. We have the best customers in the world, okay, top of the stock exchange, banks, just eBay, Johnson & Johnson, Salesforce, you name it, okay, really the top accounts. So a little bit about the team. My team is focused on the cloud businesses, which is the growing segment within Radware. We are distributed globally. We have teams in the US, in EMEA, and in CALA across the globe. Besides the CSM, we have a person who is responsible for the marketing of the operations and all the campaigns and all the automatic information we are managing. We also have a dedicated team of project managers who runs the onboarding. The reason for that is that our onboarding is very technical or very project-oriented, IT project-oriented. So we decided to split it into other people than the CSM. And the CSM is involved at the beginning, hands over, or in case there is an issue, we'll get involved. And once onboarding finish, we'll take the lead.
So when we're talking about how adoption is important, before that, maybe we should start with what is adoption. Rest assured that most of you, if not all of you, are aware of that, but let's talk a little bit about that. So adoption is part of the customer journey, right? Usually new customers will start the onboarding stage. For most SaaS companies, I would say that it will take approximately 30 days. Then they'll spend almost the entire year within the adoption phase, and then we'll have a very short period of renewal. After the second year, obviously, we don't have even the onboarding stage, and adoption will take even a bigger part. Adoption is the part within the customer journey where they really get the value of your product. This is when they learn about your product even more than they did during the onboarding. This is where they are really setting up all their either processes or start using that on a day-to-day basis to ensure that they are getting the value for which they paid for. And this is a very important piece, because if your customers are not using your product, they'll never see the value of their investment, right? And we need to assure that they are using the product, the service that they were paying for. So when we're talking about calculating adoption, there are three, I'll say, general items that we can look at. During this presentation, Evyatar will even speak a bit about the way that he tracks it. But for us, and sometimes that this example probably will be more suitable for the majority of companies, is that we need to track the service utilization. Maybe you are, your customers are paying for licenses. Maybe they are paying for storage in the cloud. Maybe they are paying for tests that they can run on your system. It doesn't matter what what are you selling? The question is how much they bought and how they are using, how much of that they are using, right? And this is the service utilization that we are looking to see. When we're talking about product depth, we want to understand how much time do they spend, right, in your product, in your service. Are they logging daily? And when they log daily, do they use a specific feature a lot, or are they using your system a lot? When we're talking about the product width, we want to understand whether they are really spreading their reach within your service. We want to ensure that they are not using only one fundamental piece of our service, because maybe then they will go and find that specific feature at someone else's company, right? So we want to ensure that they are really using the product correctly, and we want to cover all these three areas. When we're talking about adoption rates and we are talking about having value-based conversation with your customers, we need to understand why it's so important. And here are several reasons for that. So first of all, it creates a tighter partnership with you and your customers. It's typically a good indicator that we are going to have a smooth renewal. High adoption rates means that there's stickiness. They are used to using your system. You are part of their day-to-day. It will be harder for them to leave you. It's a great indicator that the client is ready for expansion. If they are over consuming some of your services, or really using that, and if they'll expand as a team or as a company, they'll probably want to buy more of your product. And one of the main things that we as customer success managers are probably in charge of is getting more advocates to our company and to our service. So good adopting customers of our product will be great advocates for our future sales. Now I would like to talk a little bit about the importance of creating processes and workflows to assure that you have high adoption. And even more specifically, I'll talk about the automation piece. So when we're talking about creating these automated processes and workflows, we want to do it because we want to be able to scale our processes, right? We are doing great. We are a team of 5. We are getting more and more customers. We cannot have more and more the relation between the increase in customer success manager cannot be linear to the increase in new customers. We want to manage more customers with the team that we have already in our team, obviously. So automated processes will be great for scalability. And scalability, as an example, if we're talking about Tatango or any other system, is building success plays or playbooks to ensure that once a certain criteria is being met, or the customer met a specific threshold, a task will be created for the CSM. Maybe it's campaigns, right? Email outreaches to your customers. When a customer reached a certain threshold, we want to engage with them. So these tools are great for scalability. We want to also track effectiveness. When we are talking about these tools that we have, our automated processes, we need to ensure that they are working for us. So we need to understand the score of each process, and we need to differentiate between good processes that help us to poor processes in a way that didn't get us to where we want to be. In that place, we will know that we need to change them, adjust them, and then hopefully get the results that we want. So it's important for you to create these processes to measure effectiveness. Obviously, you want to be able to adapt quickly to any changes. When you are creating these processes that are across your entire team or entire organization, it's easy for you to adapt. I can share, a story of one of my customers that, obviously when COVID-19 hit them, they went with new promotions to help their customer deal with this situation. Instead of having everybody and train them and gather them in Zoom meetings and whatever, right? They were able to create a unique process within Tatango and to spread it across the entire team without the need, and obviously very quickly, without the need to really train them about anything, because the system really dictates what you need to do. Work prioritization, obviously, as a CSM, when we have these processes and we get tasks and everything that we need to understand that we need to do in order to reach the goals that we've set for ourselves, it's easier for me to understand on what I should focus today. when we're creating these processes, this will allow us to understand, okay, that's what I need to do today. These are the tasks that I need to do in the next 7 days, a month, or whatnot. And it really helps us with that. And last but not least, executive visibility. The ability to have these processes will help us understand from an executive perspective whether we are meeting our goals or not. So whether we have set ourselves to increase our service utilization rates, or maybe we wanted our customers to start using a new feature that we just released. Having these processes can automatically help us understand whether the actions that we took help our customer improve their adoption. Just a quick note about this. For those of you who are aware and for those of you who are not aware, we have our SuccessBlock marketplace where you have the ability to download any intended business units that you want to manage within your customers, whether it's adoption, whether it's renewals, whether it's upsells. You can download them directly from our marketplace. Our success blocks are already compiled out of success plays and campaigns and segment that you can use, and obviously help you configure your personal processes that you would want to implement within your team. Without further ado, I would love for you to hear a little bit from Evyatar and his experience with the Tango and how he did all the things that we've talked about. So Evyatar.
Yeah, hi again. So I hope you hear me well. There was a failure in Zoom and I had to switch audio while Agur was speaking. So I hope you can hear me well. So when you start, obviously, to think about adoption and to automate your processes, there is a process that I offer you to use, the process that I used. First, ask yourself, what are the KPIs? In my case, and I'm sure in most of you, your case as well, is the adoption. How much are they using the product? Renewal, what is the renewal rate, the churn rate, how much upsells are you doing, and what is the customer satisfaction? Pretty standard to almost any customer success organization. And then ask yourself, okay, those are my KPIs. What are the areas where I see challenges? In my case, value creation. We provide a protection from attacks. Okay, if a customer is not attacked, they don't see the value. Very similar to an insurance company. Another challenge that I had, and may sound funny, I couldn't measure exactly the usage of the customer. I had portals, I had ERP system, I had a support system, but I couldn't really know how much the user is leveraging. Another challenge that I had is with low touch. I'm sure all of you had this challenge that you don't have enough CSMs to cover everything that you wish. So I want to make sure that I'm touching the low touch accounts in some way, but also in a very effective way. So I won't waste an expensive CSM dealing with a low cost customer. Now, once you know that, ask yourself, what are the goals? What you would like to improve? In my case, adoption. I wanted to make sure that users are benefiting more from the services, utilizing it, so we can improve first and most the renewal rate. And second, I wanted to improve my team focus to make sure that a CSM is where I need, okay, where there is an account at risk, and in the positive side, where there is an account that I can upsell to. Last, which is a very important point, what is the data that you need and where this data is coming from, and I'll speak a little bit more on that later. In my case, there were two systems. One is the traditional legacy ERP and all the finance systems. So I had to pull the data that I need to know what the customer exactly bought. And on the other hand, we had very fancy, advanced SaaS portals with all the metrics that I'm sure most of you know. And I had to make the match between those systems and to push it into the CSM dashboard so they can act properly. Okay. So with that, I was able to measure the license against the usage. And last, ask yourself, what are the domains, what are the areas that you would like to make an impact, that you would like to show that improved? Very classic, based on the KPIs, I choose to focus on renewal and of course on upsell. Okay, so obviously everything that I said before sounds very simple and very easy to do, okay? But in life, there are many, many hurdles. So when you go to the organization, there are two approaches. One is top-down and the other is bottom-up. I basically did the mix of two. The first one was to sell the vision to my management. Okay, I want people to build an integration, to open reports, to explain them why do I need it, even just to listen to me. So with management, you speak about the KPIs, you speak about visibility. That's the best word. They all like to know what are you doing and how you're spending your time. You prove them if you measure that, or I give you those reports, how can I improve? How can I make my team more effective? And last, this is a very funny story that I had. So for me, and I'm sure for you as well, it is very clear that you need to know if a user is logging on or not, if they're using all the license or not. That's the heart of our work. Very straightforward. But my management, my executive couldn't really get it until I put this, circle slide with all those different images on it, and this made the impact. Okay, so I call it the equation. Okay, so first I'm looking about support and service quality, how many tickets, how many events. I'll go into it in a second. Second, how much the customer is talking to us. Is it joining a webinar like now, joining to the CSM calls, cadence call? How much using from the license? In our case, license it's like ISP, either bandwidth or the number of networks. What the CSM thinks. Okay, what he or she is seeing in the organization. Is the champion leaving us? Is there a business opportunity? Things that are more human touch. And last, market insight. What's going on the market in our industry? If one bank is account, the day is being attacked, the day after, all the competitors of this bank will stand in line to our services. Now, based on those circles, on those categories, I can measure what is the customer health, good, bad, green, yellow. What are the chances for renewal? And today I know to project renewal in a very high rate, thanks to that. And in a positive side, right? What are my upsell? What account I can upsell to? And those are my own very specific points. Each one of you, of course, is different between organization and even within the organization. So how many cases, how many service impact events? In our case, if we take a customer down, it's terrible. Okay, the CEO of the bank will call us immediately. How many security impacts, even if there was an attack and some complicated around it? What is the onboarding time? The shorter it is, the better it is. How much the engagement is, coming to the meeting, joining the webinar, reading the emails, sending the surveys, giving us good feedback. Utilization, which again, it's very unique to each organization, login, bandwidth, how many attacks. For us, number of attacks is the value point. So how much the account was attacked, other security events. Security event for us, it's a good word. And what are the other products to use? What the CSM think as I spoke, and what's going on the market based on domain, based on territory. Okay, this is an example of a potential upsell. Okay, a customer is talking to us more than 0 cases. Okay? There are issues that he is engaging with us. He had no downtime. We provided a perfect service. The latency is very low. Joining our webinars, giving us good service, more than, I would say, even not 6, but more than 7 or more than 8. Utilizing the service, logging on. That's a good customer. This is an account I will target to upsell. Yeah. And this is the flip side, a call for action. Not communicating to us, no tickets, not using all the license. Here there is a problem, I need to act. Okay, so I spoke about the management. A second is the other teams. In my case, it was the IT. I simply sold them the vision. I told them, you can go and develop in CRM reports all your life, or you can build an integration system to a production cloud SaaS environment. Just listen how this will look in your CV. And by getting them engaged, this team basically develop everything that I need and much more. And at the middle of the night, even if I have management support, if you call your friend from the IT, if you have a problem, or if you need to add another field, this is what makes the difference. And last, which sounds, I'm saying nothing smart here, but don't make it your project, make it the company success, make it the organization success. Give credit to everyone. There's a lot of people involved. I heard from One person, it was the first time he saw his email or his name in a thank you letter that was in a wide distribution. And that was very, very meaningful to this guy who helped me a lot, okay? But no one knew. Just gave him the credit and become my best buddy. Okay. So how do you implement it within Totango, which we choose to implement our custom success platform? So first, the data scheme. Put a lot of thoughts around that. In my case, you sit with the developers of the ERP, with the finance people, with all the stakeholders, with the development, with the R&D, and define exactly what you want and put yourself on the driver's seat. This is something you need to do, okay? Once you have that, make sure that you have a data that is good, that is meaningful, okay? That you can do something with it. Invest a lot of cleaning the data before it comes into Totango or once it's in. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard to process and you'll get a lot of noise and false positives. Next is the success blocks, which is a very useful tool, you know, to organize. In my case, I choose the adoption. Okay, I put a success block, name adoption, and everything around usage I put under it. The success flows, which is not just, you know, the button that you choose in Totango, but it's also a logic step. Okay, what does it mean for me? So I had success flow. So I had a flow when customer is overusing, when customer is underusing, when customer is added another service or removed another service. And remember, it's not just negative. There is always a positive flip to any flow that you choose. And once you do that, once you have that, now you implement it in segments. The way I did it, I first did segments. I was following up on the segments, cleaning them, learning from them, making sure that they are perfect and accurate and contains only the data that I want to see and only the relevant companies. And once I have that and I was happy with it after, you know, day by day checking and updating everything manually, I automated it with a success play and then, you know, boom. Once they trust the process, the customer success manager waking up in the morning, get the list, get the task, and has the right priority to manage with. And last, once you get a little bit more data, build a scorecard. It's an excellent tool. It helps you to measure what's going on. And it's a great show off. You show your executive the dashboard, everything goes up, go down. The fact that we can measure the progress by every day is amazing. And you can simply show how the lines goes up and how you're winning your objectives. Okay. Okay, so we did all this effort. We automated everything. We are happy with adoption. What were the outcomes? First, we were able to generate 20% of the customers are overusing just by creating the automation, which means that they are over adopting and we can upsell to, and we created the lead. Now I have a story about COVID-19, which is something I'm personally very, very proud of and wanted to share with you. So we did all the automation. We knew exactly who is overusing. We knew that we need to approach and sell. But both the field team, the management, up to the CEO, you know, it wasn't so important for them. And it was just myself and the team chasing and want to make it happen. And then COVID-19 came to the world. And then like everywhere, okay, customer success is the focus. We need to get each and every penny from the customers that are using it. And we were ready, okay? We made the investment on time and we were able just in one quarter, in Q2, when the Corona started and the world was shocked, we were able to upsell to our users $500,000 just as a direct result of the processes that we implemented and the adoption that we followed up upon. Second, another example, we saw that in one of our products, 50% of the users are not logging in as in a regular basis, in my case, once a month into the portal. You know, there is a strict connection between usage and renewal. We did a campaign about that. We did trainings. The CSM spoke about. It's over 81% now. Last is call for action. Okay, when there is a problem, we need to act. I can share with you a story about a very large insurance company. The CSM is getting a task. The customer dropped the service. Okay, we are calling them 2 days after. They didn't respond to the knock before. oh yes, there was an issue, we installed something on the system, we thought it's your fault, and we went down. And they did it 2 or 3 times, okay? And every time we prove them, it's not us, it's something in your network. We work with them, we engage. They were very happy about the proactiveness. We brought them back into the service. The result was not just that they have renewed, they also signed for 5 years, because we increased the level of trust just by doing that and by being proactive. And automatically, it was, but we didn't even have to press a button. The system did it for us. Other thing is improve health measurement. A second before I told you a story. Story is nice. It's a great sell, but you also need to show your KPI. You need to speak about percentages. You need to show the graph is coming up, okay? And with that, you can show not just a story of one insurance company, but the story of your all companies. Other operational, again, I'm speaking a lot about being effective in my team. Preparation for a meeting, for a cadence call went down in 25%, just by having the CSM reading everything on the same place. And there were many other side effects in the organization, which I did not expect. The operation is using this information, product is using this information. This is helping to improve the product and to show how we can increase that. Okay. Back to you, Agur.
Thank you very much, Aviatar, for sharing your story. So here are some key takeaways that we want you to, take with you when you are leaving this webinar. So first of all, try to understand what is your equation, right? I've talked about the very basic fundamentals of how to track the adoption rates and the value that your customers are getting from you. Aviatar took it one step further and really applied it on his company. Try to build your own equation to understand which customers are using your product as they should and which one of them are not. Focus on your goals and objectives, right? Always keep with the end in mind, right? Where you want to get to, where you want to go with that. Based on that, build your processes. Focus on what's important, build your processes based on that, where you want to get to. Ensure you have the right processes defined and implemented. Okay, that's very important. We want to understand which ones are working for us, which ones are just time consuming and maybe confusing the team. And as Aviatar mentioned, which is, I think, a great story to tell, is sell the vision to your management, make it a company-wide effort, and don't forget to give credit to everyone who were involved. So what's next? We really want you to kind of understand and analyze your customers. So I'm not going to go through that flow chart. This recording of this webinar will be sent to you within 24 hours. So here are just 2 examples of a poor adoption customer and a good adoption customers. The question that you need to ask yourself during this analysis on that customer and understand whether they're good or poor in adoption. If they're poor in adoption, how are you getting them out of this situation? How do you get them out of this status and start to show them some value from your product? So as a practice, choose 1 good and 1 poor adoption customers from your company. Use the flow charts. You'll be able to see them in the webinar recording. Ask the question and try to answer them and build the right plan in order to, 1, save those who are in poor adoption phase. But for those who are good adoption phase, what is your expansion plan for them? How can you make them even better? How you can share the mutual success between you two? And this is exactly determine the correct path forward to realize value. So thank you for joining. We want to give some time for our participant to ask questions. So you have the next couple of minutes to write up some question that you want either me or Aviatar to answer, and we will review the questions. Aviv asked, how would you use, and Aviatar, if you want to help me answer these questions, how would you use a CS ops function in your organization to best win the goals? What will make a good CS ops role successful, whether skills, tools, or experience? Aviatar, do you want to take it?
Yeah, sure. So first, CS operation is something that is very hard to sell into management, and this is a challenge within my organization as well. Besides everything that any CSM needs, of course, customer facing, understanding what's important, what it's not important, I believe someone who is very, very detailed oriented and able to track about a lot of the data points and the structure of the information and control all the minor details. In my case, there's a lot of efforts around making sure that there is no false positive in the automation and how we tweak our threshold. For example, we are now changing the accounts into sub accounts. We want to track sub accounts. So there's a lot of detail, which contract goes to where and what. We are also sending a lot of campaigns. Okay, so make sure the link is correct, the information is updated. There's a lot the devil is in the details. So we need someone that can really control that, and obviously eager to technology. Okay.
Thank you, Aviatar. For the second question that we got, it is, how do you define your points of measurements KPI if your tool product does not contain these metrics naturally in order to be able to automate? One of the things that I would like to say, and Aviatar, you can obviously chime in after, but one of the things that I think that we've put in our flowcharts before is that I think it's completely reasonable that your product cannot track the value that your customer is getting. And one of the most important things that I think you should do as a customer success professional is don't be shy or embarrassed to ask your customers on their quarterly business reviews, on one of your regular cadence call, do you get value from the product? You really need to understand why did they bought your product for, what they were able to achieve. And if you cannot track it on your own, don't be embarrassed to ask your customers for their help in understanding whether they got the value. I saw that in a lot of cases with a lot of customers, and that's what I would do. Aviatar, do you want to?
Yeah, in addition, some points are very hard to measure. Okay, for example, we have challenged what is the size or the length of the attack. But you should ask yourself why the customer purchased the product for, and based on that, if they are seeing the value or not. So, for example, we have some customers at APAC that really hate us. Okay, hate us. They don't want to speak with us. They are always angry about us. On the other hand, they are being attacked a day after a day, a day after a day. So, I put my helmet when I talk to them, but I know that they will renew. Why? Because we're giving the value. On the flip side, I had a story with the CSM who told me, yeah, he's so nice, he's so quick, a bank. He loves me, he always sends me nice things, but we took the system down, and I'm not so sure if they have a strong business need. And at the end, they were very nice, but they didn't continue. So remember those objectives. Even like Agur said, you need to ask and you will get honest questions, but also come from a point of why you bought the product, what is your product about, and are you really getting the benefit of the product, whatever it is.
Thank you very much. So we got another question from Vika. I want to ask if the fact that the CSM is not involved with the onboarding has an impact on his or her ability to create a positive relationship with the customer afterwards. Aviatar, do you want to take it or you want me to?
I can share with my own experience. One of the first things that I did in my role was to map the customer journey, and I noticed there is a problem with the onboarding. It was taking up to 50% of my CSM time, and then I decided to make this the split. But the question is excellent. It is a challenge. It is a problem. I think, and there's always a trade-off. Okay. On the other hand, I make my CSM more effective. On the other hand, I do pay in creating the relationship on the hard time. I think the golden way is that the CSM is get involved whenever there is a need, whenever there is a problem, as much as possible. At least try to listen in to feel the customer temperature. Again, project managers are more task-oriented. The CSM is more relationship-oriented, and to measure that. But you are correct, Vika. It is a challenge. Okay.
Thank you, Aviatar. And for our last question from Ed, how do you re-engage with a strategic client versus user of the product to show value or drive the value of the product? I can speak from my experience, and obviously Aviatar can join afterwards, but I think that this is a great example of two different audiences for which we need to work with, right? If we're talking about our end users, the users who are using our products, it's a great the campaigns that we've talked about as an example is a great tool to engage with them automatically based on a certain criteria. If an end user is not logged in to the system within 14 days, we can send them a campaign asking if everything is okay or whether we can help with something. If a specific end user is not using a feature, we can send another campaign with the training materials and help them better get familiar with our product and maybe encourage them to use that. When we're talking about our strategic contacts, we need to ensure that we have the relationship with them, right? We need to build this relationship. We need to have this regular cadence. We need to ask them about the value that they're getting as a whole, as a company, as an organization from our product. So the relationship between these two audiences is obviously different, but we should focus on what's important to each and every user. If it's the end user, we want to make sure that he's getting his personal value from the product. Does his life got better since he is using our product? And obviously from a strategic point of contact perspective, he bought our product, he signed up for it, he wants to get the value. We need to, during our conversation with them, look at the bigger picture and understand whether they are getting the value or the ROI that they were looking to get when they bought our product or service. Evyatar.
Yeah, thank you, Hugo. I think you definitely need to map the stakeholders in the organization and let the technical people speak with the technical level, and definitely make sure there is a relationship with the executive. We do it normally through the QBR. Then we bring our business people, and we don't hesitate to call even the CEO, even though we're a very large company, in order to talk with the customer so they can speak the executive language. Okay, and I believe that don't try to do everything yourself. I mean, you are the CSM, you can't make sure that the user is okay and the CEO of the user is okay. Leverage the organization and the hierarchy you have in your organization for that.
And add to your follow-up question, QBR means quarterly business review. So it really doesn't matter if you have them on a quarterly basis, on a biannually basis, or once a year. The business review is a great opportunity to set up a meeting with your key stakeholders to talk about everything that we were able to accomplish until now. What are the plans for the upcoming year, for the upcoming quarter? And during that conversation, talk about the value that we were able to get to our customers. And if we cannot track it, it's a great opportunity for us to ask the customer itself whether they got the value or not. So that's what QBR means. Okay. So I think that we've answered all the questions. So thank you everybody for participating. It was great fun, especially for me. I'm sure that for Evyatar as well.